What's with all the tattoos, old man? Run out of paper? Or just lose a bunch of bets in port? The question drifted through the briefing room like the charge in the air before a storm breaks. It came from the back, row fired off with a smug grin by Enan Miller, a 23-year-old P-condition graduate fresh out of Bud S. Sitting with his arms folded and muscles swelling against his sharp uniform, around him sat 20 other new SEAL candidates, all looking like they could rip steel beams in half. Up front stood the man Miller was mocking, 60-year-old guest instructor named Elias. Elias didn't fit the image of a warrior. He looked like someone who had lived too many lives. Thinning gray hair, skin marked by deep creases, a plain black shirt exposing arms covered in faded, mismatched ink. To Miller, he looked like a washed-up biker who wandered onto the wrong base. But Miller was about to learn that some predators in the deep don't need to look dangerous to be lethal. If you believe wisdom is earned in blood, and that warriors deserve respect, stop and hit the like button and type respect in the comments. Let's see who understands the real price of freedom. The briefing room at the Naval Special Warfare Center in Coronado was usually a place of cutting-edge war planning. The AC hummed steadily, keeping the room at a cold 68 degrees against the San Diego heat outside. Digital maps, satellite imagery, and SEAL ethos lined the walls, including the words, "The only easy day was yesterday." The men in the seats were the newest generation, faster, stronger, and more technologically trained than any before them. Drones, ballistics, comms, they had mastered it all. They felt untouchable. Then Elias walked in. No laptop. No projector remote. No stack of manuals. Just a paper cup of coffee and a battered notebook that looked like it had survived a dozen deployments. He walked with a slight limp, not hiding it. He set his coffee on the podium and stood there, silent, scanning the room for a full minute. His eyes were flat gray cold, unreadable. That was when Miller opened his mouth. The recruits had expected a Tier 1 operator straight from the battlefield, beard, tactical gear, and stories of high-value targets. Instead, they saw a man who looked like he'd fixed air conditioners in the 80s. Miller's jab wasn't just a joke hit, was a power move, an attempt to assert dominance over the silence. A few guys chuckled. The tattoos on Elias's arms were rough, old, dark, and chaotic. Nothing like modern artistic sleeves. Jagged shapes, coordinates, crude symbols blending together. Elias didn't react. He didn't frown. He simply took a sip of coffee, set it down, and locked eyes with Miller. The room fell quiet. "You like the artwork, son?" he asked, voice low and gritty. Miller shrugged, leaning back. "Just curious. We usually keep it professional. That looks messy, like a scrapbook gone wrong." Elias nodded once and stepped away from the podium. Walking down the aisle, his skin came into clearer viewing, covering scars, burns, and ridges beneath the surface. "Chaotic," Elias repeated. "Good word. War is chaos. You boys train for clean plans, but the plan dies the moment the shooting starts." He stopped right in front of Miller. Miller straightened involuntarily. The old man's eyes held no fear, only the predatory calm of someone who had seen too much to be rattled. "You want to know why there are so many?" Elias asked. He rolled his left shoulder forward, revealing a jagged black line on his forearm. "This one? Looks like a bad tattoo, right? Like someone drew it drunk." "Yeah. What is it?" "A river. A timeline." Elias's voice stayed quiet, matter of fact. 1989. Operation Just Cause. Panama. We were told the airfield would be lightly defended. It wasn't. It was a kill zone. The room froze. My swim buddy Joey took a round to the femoral artery in the first 30 seconds. I dragged him behind a jet's landing gear. Machine gun fire everywhere. We were pinned for 4 hours. Elias tapped the line on his arm. 3 days later, I tattooed this myself. It marks the path his blood took across the tarmac. It reminds me that when the world falls apart, you don't panic. You hold the line. Miller swallowed hard. Elias lifted his other sleeve. 3 crude stars sat on his bicep. "These look like decorations to you?" Fashion. No one laughed. 1993. Mogadishu. The word hit the room like a hammer. We were support, not meant to be the main effort. But when the birds went down, everything changed. Streets turned into kill zones. We ran out of water, ran out of ammo, nearly ran out of time. He tapped the stars. 3 men from my squad never made it back. These cover the shrapnel scars I took, dragging a ranger out of a burning Humvee. Every time I lift something heavy, the scar tissue pulls. It hurts. I'm grateful for the pain. It reminds me I'm still living the life they lost. Elias stepped back, addressing the entire room now. The recruits leaned forward, wide-eyed. Their earlier arrogance had evaporated, replaced by the dawning realization of exactly who stood before them. You look at me and you see nothing but age, Elias began, his voice rising just enough to command the room. You see gray hair, worn skin, and old ink, and you wonder why I'm covered in tattoos. He lifted his arm slightly. The explanation is simple. I have so many tattoos because I've survived that many times. Every mark is a receipt, a reminder of a life lived, a death narrowly escaped, or a brother I had to bury. He tapped a faded geometric symbol on his wrist. Afghanistan, 2002, Taku Mountains. The air was so thin we felt like our lungs were collapsing. We hunted shadows inside caves with no drones, no satellite. Comes just 6 men, the cold and the dark. 12 days out there. Food gone by day 4. We stayed alive on snow and spite. This one Norion's constellation I inked because it was the only thing I could see during the 48 hours I lay frozen in place, waiting for a sniper to slip. He did. Elias's gaze returned to Miller. Your skin is clean. Your eyes are bright. Your shoulders are strong. You know the theory of war, the logistics, the tactics, but you haven't felt the weight yet. You haven't carried it. Miller stared down at his hands, face flushed with embarrassment. I didn't know, sir. I'm sorry. I'm not sir anymore, Elias replied softly. Just Elias. My rank stayed on the uniform. The ink stayed on me. At that moment, the steel door at the rear opened. Commander Vance stepped inside in full-dress whites. The room snapped to attention, but he waved them down. Vance walked straight to Elias with a look bordering on reverence. Elias, he said warmly, I wasn't sure you'd really come. I gave my word, Elias answered. Turning to the recruits, Vance addressed their stunned faces. Gentlemen, meet the architect of the very survival program you're studying. Before GPS, before drones, before thermal optics, there were men like Elias Thorne. He served in CL Team 6 before most of you were even born. He's operated in more places than you can list. He's the only man I know who's earned the Navy Cross twice. A murmur of disbelief rolled through the room. 2 Navy Crosses. That placed him somewhere between legend and myth. Asterisk, I didn't bring him here to teach you marksmanship, Vance continued. You already know how to shoot. I brought him here to teach you endurance because tech fails. Batteries die. Comes break. And when they do, all you have left is your heart and the man beside you. Ash. Vance nodded to Elias and stepped aside. Elias returned to the podium, lifting his now cold coffee. He looked directly at Miller. The young ensign looked like he wished he could disappear. Stand up, son, Elias said. Miller obeyed stiffly. Don't sir me, Elias muttered with a faint grin. I work for a living. And your question wasn't wrong. We all judge what we sit's human. But in this line of work, assumptions will get you killed. You have to look deeper. Look at the eyes, not the paint job. He rolled his sleeves down, hiding the scars and stories. Once again, he appeared to be nothing more than an aging man in a plain black shirt. You want to know the real reason I have so much ink? Elias asked quietly. The room leaned in. Yes, Master Chief, Miller whispered. It's because I didn't want to stare at the empty places, Elias said. Every time I lost a piece of myself, I covered it with ink. You boys are blank canvases, perfect, untouched. My job is to help you stay that way for as long as you can. But if you stay in this game long enough, you will be marked. Maybe not with tattoos, but you will be marked. He picked up a piece of chalk and drew a single straight line. This is you, he said. Then he drew a lopsided, chaotic circle around it. And this is the world. Survival isn't about defeating the world. It's about keeping your lines straight while everything tries to bend it. Open your notebooks. Today we're talking about finding water in a hostile urban environment. And if you mention apps or filters, I'm walking out. The recruits dove for their notebooks with newfound urgency, pens poised like weapons. Miller didn't blink. He wasn't looking at an old biker anymore. He was looking at a prophet. For the next 3 hours, Elias talked. No jargon, no fancy buzzwords, just raw truth. Stories of dehydration so intense it made men hallucinate. Accounts of hiding in sewage pipes to evade patrols. Descriptions of what it feels like to be hunted. And with each gesture, each tiny movement, the ink on his arm seemed to come alive, no longer random symbols, but an atlas of survival. When the lecture ended, nobody moved. Even when the dismissal bell rang, Elias packed his weathered notebook, finished the cold coffee, and looked at the class one last time. Class dismissed, he said. As he walked toward the exit, Miller sprinted after him. Master Chief Leoswaite. Elias turned. Yeah. Miller extended his hand. Thank you. I won't judge someone by appearances again. Elias shook his hand with a grip of iron. He pulled Miller slightly closer. Forget the book, kid, he said. Focus on the story you're going to write. Make it a good one. And try not to earn too much ink. It hurts like hell when it rains. He gave a quick wink, the flicker of the fierce, younger warrior he once was, and stepped out into the glowing California sunlight. For a long moment, the room stayed silent. The recruits stared at their own unmarked arms. They gathered their gear slowly, a new weight in their movements. They had entered as self-proclaimed apex predators. They left realizing they were still cubs lucky enough to have met the lion. Because respect isn't about polished boots, or popularity, or loud voices. Respect is the quiet recognition of the burdens someone carries. Every scar has a history. Every gray hair is a lesson etched painfully into time. We live in a world quick to judge the old, the worn, the quiet. But as Elias showed them, sometimes the quietest man in the room is the one who roared the loudest in the past. So the next time you see a veteran with faded ink or a limp, don't stare. Don't ridicule. Nod. Say thank you. Because the life you live, the safety you enjoy, the freedom you never think twice about was bought with ink and blood by men like him. If you stand with veterans, if you honor the old guard, and if you believe true strength makes no noise, subscribe. Share this story and help keep their legacy alive. Stay strong.